Hey there, Banditos. Welcome to the latest episode of the Dollar Bin Bandits, where, as always, we fling open the doors of your local comic book shop and bring you interviews with your favorite comic book creators of yesterday and today. Today is no different, and I have the pleasure of kicking off the first Dollar Bin Bandits episode of the week with none other than returning guest Ed Catto. We get into his career a little bit. I know you guys have heard it before, but we discuss what inspires him to keep coming back to Ithacon and putting on a new and improved and better show each and every year. We also cover what we can expect this weekend, Saturday and Sunday at Ithacon, and what other work he has going on the side. So, without further ado, let's get to the interview. This is Ed Catto. Ed Catto, how are you, sir?
Oh, Joe, I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. I know, this has been Oren's thing for the past couple of years. Going to and talking to you about Ithacon, but I have the pleasure of doing so today. So let's kick it off with let's discuss Ithacon this year. How what can comic fans expect to see? What will be going on, and what are some of the big highlights that we can expect?
Oh, sure. Well, in some ways, Ithacon is a little comic show like every other comic show, and in some ways, it's just the opposite. So, Ithacon is this long-lived show that I always say like punches above its weight, Joe. So, because of the long history, this is the 48th year. It's the nation's second longest running comic convention after San Diego.
Wow.
And yeah, just it astounds me. It's amazing to me. So, it's got this tradition and this history. So, it does a lot of things really well, like, gets some good guests and treats them well. Um, J San Diego, like many, American institutions, want to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Ithacon's like a funky little town, and it's so Ithaca-esque to just stay small and keep it manageable. Lately, I've been using the analogy of like a big brewery like Anheuser-Busch and craft brewers, the local. And Ithacon is very much like the craft brewers in that analogy. So, it's kept small purposefully. We're a nonprofit. We try and keep things low to the ground, but make it so, fans can, meet the guests without long lines. Make it so people can buy stuff they want and really enjoy it. At the same time, we do a really good job with our vendors always want to come back. One fella said last year's Ithacon was his best comic show ever. Not only Ithacons, but best one ever. And so I think we get kind of the right type of people. And I kind of dance around that question, but specifically for this year, we've got some amazing guests coming in. That's probably a good place to start, and some coming for the first time, and some returning guests. So that's a real thrill for all of us involved.
Yeah, having been to uh not into actually New York Comic Con, but been by it, having to drop off my daughter, I will say it is extraordinarily overwhelming. And having friends and family who have gone to New York Comic Con, they say the same thing. It's very overwhelming. But I can appreciate I don't want to say smaller. I mean, maybe in size they are, but comic conventions, say like Ithacon or Terrificon, shows like that, they are very, very, comic book fan friendly. Um,
Yeah.
because for everything you just said, you can meet all the creators that you want to and not be overwhelmed. And yes, you can get the cool stuff, the swag, the amazing artwork. You could find amazing finds in comics, dollar bins. um
Yeah. I
you
love
know
dollar bins too. Not only the
and
podcast.
you don't feel, you're not jam packed like a sardine, and you can kind of breathe easy when you go to these shows. So they're really amazing. So thank you for doing what you do. What I know you probably, well, I know you did previously on talking to Oren, but what really inspires you to do this every year and kind of keep this rolling?
Oh, well, let's see. That's a good question. I guess a couple of things. In some ways, I was that little kid who went to a convention and like, my head exploded. And I don't know if my life changed because the first convention I went to, it was Ithacon either number one or two. I grew up in this area. I spent most of my career in New York and then moved back. And I can remember at that time, like I was just learning who artists were, and Walter Simonson was drawing Rampaging Hulk, a black and white magazine at that time, and I kind of knew who he was. And I dug his stuff, and I met him at the show, and he was nice to me, and I was like, "Can you sign this, Mr. Simonson?" And and here's this guy. I know his art style, and he's very kind to me, and so that was fantastic. And then for most of my career, Joe, I was kind of like a startup guy and advertising guy. But I did have a peculiar run for a couple of years working for Reed Elsevier. And Reed Elsevier is, you might know them as Reed Expo. They're the folks who do New York Comic Con.
Mhm.
So I was brought on board as a marketing guy to help all of their shows. And it was the sophomore year of New York Comic Con, and they'd had a really good year the year before. And I'm helping with like the gambling show and the book expo and the hunting show. And I said, I really know a lot about the comic scene, right? Like that's kind of my thing. And like, oh yeah, well let's have you help out with that. So then helping get New York Comic Con established and grow was so much fun. And in those days it wasn't quite as crowded as it is now, although we did fill up Javits very, very quickly. So understanding, trade shows, how they work, understanding specifically the business of comic conventions, later on exhibiting at comic conventions many times, gave me like a real understanding of it. And I think part of the reason I do it is not, look, I understand how it works in the business and why it should work, but also there's something magical like these, little cities that come together, little communities, people are there and you see all these great ideas and you get to know all these people and then and then it all goes away and until you come back again the next year. So for me, that's extraordinarily fun and exciting, and you kind of never know what you're going to get. And in fact, maybe, geez, maybe it's going to go off the rails this year. Who knows? Like we don't know. And that, I guess, like a sporting event, kind of gives you a bit of the or Saturday Night Live. Like maybe this year is not going to work, but so far this show has, and most shows do, and that kind of lends to the fun.
And if so, as someone who kind of likes to know, how the sausage is made, how far out in advance are you planning your shows? So I'm assuming, as pertains to next year, you're already lining up guests.
Yeah, we're actually the year after next is Ithacon's 50th. So we're already planning for the 50th. So
Okay.
yeah, usually a year ahead, but yeah, we're kind of 2 years ahead now and trying to do some things now to make it easier for that 50th year too. So I think most shows are about a year ahead or most times, but in this particular case, we've got a reason to plan ahead a little bit better.
And do you feel a need to kind of top every year? Like there's shows that come out, and whether it's a convention or I don't know, some type of production that's, annual, people kind of feel the need, well, that was great. We got to top that. And sometimes when in doing so, it gets away from you and it kind of,
Yeah.
you have a San Diego or New York Comic Con. Do you feel the need to do that, or just want to just keep a nice solid, because that's what I keep hearing from everyone. And Oren will sing your praises till the cows come home, which I appreciate. That
Yeah,
it
I
is just,
appreciate him.
it's a great solid friendly show, and I shouldn't say show, convention.
Yeah.
And it's, you, like I said, keep saying, you have the great artists, writers, and everything you can ever need, and it's not overwhelming. But do you ever kind of feel the need, like, well, maybe we need to do something bigger
Yeah,
or something?
we try and do. I think I'm immature enough, Joe, so that I do want to, you know, like make it the best one this year.
Right, pyro, and
Yeah, I think maybe the way that like we do it at this stage is with smaller things, like not necessarily growing the attendance, but like we added an award ceremony a few years ago, and that's really cool. And we have a cosplay sketching thing going on now. We try and make that a little better every year, and some of the like nuts and bolts, like, I've become a convention nerd. So if we can make the registration process quicker for people to get in, like that's a big win. Like that makes me really happy. That doesn't have anything to do with, Kirby or Ditko or anything like that. It's just
Mhm.
like getting people, happier to be there and, feel good about it. And if it works well, nobody notices. Nobody ever says like, wow, you were 20% quicker than last year. But, maybe they're a little bit happier or, they can enjoy more things very quickly. So, I think there is an element of continuous improvement. Um, the program book has gotten bigger. That's one thing that does get bloated. Right now, we're crushing under the weight of finishing it up. But in terms of, you know, um, getting too big size wise, or geez, do we want to double attendance? Like, no, 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 we don't need to do that. That's not, it's not our mandate. We're a not for profit anyway, so it's not like more tickets make us get richer.
Mhm.
That's irrelevant to this particular focus.
What can we expect? So, I read the website, and thankfully we have had a chance to talk to a lot of these, artists
I
and
know you
writers.
have. Yeah.
Um, uh, Dean Haspiel is just the pisser of like just people we've talked to. I love just running
Oh,
into
he's
him
great.
anywhere. But what are some of the other artists and writers, contributors that fans can expect to see?
Oh yeah. Well, this year we've got a fellow that we spent a lot of time with in San Diego. And I like small shows, but I like big shows too. Um, Don McGregor was awarded the Eisner Lifetime Achievement Award in San Diego, and he also was awarded an Inkpot. And I've known Don a bit for a few years and just love the guy, and moderated his panel out there. And said, Don, we got to get you now to it. Like that was fine, like San Diego, whatever, Lifetime Eisner. Let's get you the real show. And of course he rolls his eyes. So we'll bring Don, and you know, so many young fans are love the Black Panther and all of the Black Panther, but he's done so many other really cool things, groundbreaking things, with uh, characters whose voices oftentimes were not heard, or he pushed them to center stage for the first time. His work on Saber is a graphic novel, and that whole independent book is, astounding. His stuff with Zorro at Tops and the newspaper strips, Ragamuffin, the list goes on and on. There's a lot of great things to talk to Don about. We also have Matt Bors coming down from Canada. Matt's a two-time Pulitzer finalist, editor-in-chief of the Nib most recently, but now he's working with Ahoy on Toxic Avenger, big hit comic,
Mhm.
as well as Justice Warriors. And he's a great guy. He's a big thinker. He's a good fellow to have. So we're excited to have him. We've got Chris Condon coming for the second year. Chris Chris knew some of the students who were involved with Ithacon, and then from there, I had him zoom in to speak to a class, and he was phenomenal. And then we brought him last year, and since then, his career's really taken off. So he did like a Daredevil book, and he's doing Green Arrow for DC now, and Ultimate Wolverine seems to sell out for all the comic stores. And he's a bright guy with a real good focus. We're really glad to have him back. And then, like you say, guys like Dean Haspiel and Walt Simonson and Mike Gold and Randy Elliott, who's doing all this Scooby-Doo stuff, and Tom Pyre and Frank Camuso, Hart Seeley, Ken Wheaton. We're just so thrilled to have Roger Stern is a local fella, very involved with the local scene.
Mhm.
And yeah, we're just thrilled to have Louise Simonson. We're so thrilled to have all these people come.
That's great. We just had the pleasure of talking to Walt and Louise together. That was great.
Yeah, we've got someone moderating a panel with Louise, and we have her listening to your interviews like a way to prepare.
Oh wow, okay, great.
Yeah, so super help. Thank you. Thank
No,
you.
right. Trust me, I was just thrilled we could do that again.
Yeah.
We had a big technical snafu the first time around like a year ago. So
Oh
uh
dear.
it was yeah, it was just thrilled I could do it again. So um what is there a guest that you just for whatever reason haven't been able to have or get that you really want to?
Hmm. Um, over the years, Ithacon has had so many strong guests. It's been amazing. Everyone from Kurt Swan to Mike Kaluta to Murphy Anderson to, just an incredible list of folks. And I think in terms of like the big heavy hitters like Joe Cubitt or Neil Adams never came to Ithacon. I did some like personally did some convention work with both those fellas, and that was um a great happy thing for me. One guy that we're trying to get who is he's a prince of a guy, he's an entrepreneur and he's a brilliant artist is Mark Wheatley. And he's always going to this Pulp Fest, which is the same time. Um, and I think that he's the type of guy that would do really well at a show like this. And I know the fans would just love him. So that's probably like unconventional um, an unconventional choice. But yeah, I'd love to get Mark up here, and maybe next year. We'll have to see when this PulpCon is.
So get the
Um,
Pulp Fest canceled, basically, and
yeah,
we can make
can you
that
work on
happen.
that, please,
We'll
Joe?
see what I can do. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I love pulp shows, but that was driving me nuts.
So aside from Ithacon, what do you have going on? Rumor has it that you're doing something with Tomorrow's.
Oh yeah, sure. So with Tomorrow's, I've been a writer for Back Issue magazine. We had this project with an old character, Captain Action, which is still
Mm-hmm.
an ongoing project, but Tomorrow's had published like the definitive book. So we're doing our thing and we partnered with them and we did a signing like at the old Jeppy Museum and it was great. We got to know all the folks, Michael Urie and John Morrow. And that led to me being one of the writers on Back Issue where you're assigned essentially, an old comic series, usually Bronze Age series, and you research it and write about it and so much fun. Um, Recently, I was asked to take over from Michael as editor in chief for Retro Fan magazine. So, geez, we're in the middle of proofing. I should have one handy right here.
That's okay.
Uh, Retro Fan magazine, and that's been so much fun. I'm not a I've managed a lot of projects. I think my old ad agency life helps with this particular project, but the to be an editor in chief is like a whole new thing. Everything from managing to scheduling to promoting to proofreading. There's a lot going on. I'm kind of, stumbling and screwing up and learning and getting a little better, but it's a kick. So the first issue where I was full editor in chief just came out, and the second one will be coming out next month, and then we're working about 4 issues ahead on that one to answer your earlier question.
That's
And
great.
retro. I'm sorry.
No, no, just saying that's great. I just that you have all that going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of fun. Retro Fan is one of those magazines that like I was always very judicious and didn't subscribe to it, which everyone should subscribe. Don't be like me. But I didn't subscribe because it's one of those magazines where like I'd know a couple of the topics and be like, oh, I really want to read about this. But then there'd be that third one. It's like, oh well, I don't know anything about it. Let me read that. And then I read the fourth one, the fifth one, and then, you know, at the end of 2 hours, you've like, where'd that time go? I know all this stuff, and I really enjoyed reading, but boy, it just grabs you by the throat. And that's what we're still trying to do, make it so that, there's some topic that you're really going to dig, and then, from beyond that, there's um, some other things that will interest you. And the Rogues Gallery of writers for Retrofan, I feel are all, it's this top tier of writers, everyone from, Will Murray to Andy Mangels, designer Scott Saavedra, brilliant. And we're bringing in some new people too. So I just had an expert on Bob Crane write an article about Hogan's Heroes, and it
Oh wow.
was it was brilliant. It was great. I learned a lot, kind of put it in the context of history as well. And yeah, it's just a fantastic article. So it's so much fun to be doing Retro Fan.
And on top of that, you're a teacher.
Yeah, sure. So so I
So you just
I
don't
wasn't
sleep.
supposed to be a teacher though, Joe. That was that wasn't part of the game plan. I was an ad guy and then a startup guy. And like the comic startup-y thing that was probably the most interesting is my great pal Steve Rotterdam and we worked at an agency in the city. We both loved comics, and we started this business called Bonfire Agency, and we were kind of like an ad agency that helped big companies reach fans and super fans and collectors and nerds. And Bonfire was great fun to do. That was just a joy. From there, did a couple other things, and then I moved back to this area where I kind of grew up to help take care of mom and dad, and then I was asked to like guest lecture at a class at a college, and then co-teach, and then teach, and so yeah. So now I'm teaching college classes. I'm uh, on the faculty staff for Ithaca College School of Business, and it's really come full circle because one of the classes that I teach is all about managing and promoting trade shows. And the trade show that the students work on is Ithacon. So, they learn how to run things, how to manage, how to be leaders, how to deal with adversity and curveballs. And they do it all by, helping bring Ithacon to life. So that's quite a treat for me.
That's great. Cheap help too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've
And
had
they're
people,
learning.
yeah, oh, they learn. We've had people go into experiential marketing, and one fella has gone on to become an editor and worked with Will Dennis, and he was like an assistant to Scott Snyder, and he's just living his best life. And it all kind of started with Ithacon.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me about everything that you have going on. Every time Orrin does your interviews, I'm always impressed with, you got all these plates spinning, and I always appreciate that about anyone who just have their, just involved in so many different types of different things, and just put a smile on their face while they're doing it. So,
Oh
um,
yeah. Oh, it's all a blessing. Absolutely. I grin from ear to ear, and all this stuff is great. And a lot of people supporting me, everyone from just my sainted wife to you know, other faculty members and business associates and the Tomorrows crew and the Captain Action people. And it's a lot of fun. It's so much fun.
that's great. Before we go, the details of Ithacon are
Oh, sure. Ithacon is April 5th and 6th. We're right in the town of Ithaca. We're at the Emerson Suites building on the Ithaca College campus. Free parking, unlike most conventions, free parking. You can get your tickets now at ithacon.org. Interesting thing that we do, we get so much support from top publishers. Everybody like, you know, uh, uh, Dynamite and Waxing Gibbous and Wave Blue World and Titan. So we put together these goodie bags. Our first 300, 250 people buying tickets get these goodie bags that average are worth over 40 bucks a pop. So we use that as an incentive to buy your ticket now, get your ticket, and maybe you'll get a goodie bag. And it's all happening not this weekend as we're recording, but next weekend, April 5th and 6th. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's great. This is going out on Monday, so everyone who sees this will definitely be able to get all the information prior to it. So
Great.
um, make sure you, if you're in the area and if you're close enough, head over there, check it out. I'm sure you run into Oren, one of the Dollar Bin Bandits, and
Yeah.
you guys are gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
Ed,
Orange's been a big presence there. Orange's
absolutely,
great.
yeah, yeah. We're look, we appreciate the everyone who takes the time to talk to us there. So we look forward to going. So
Yeah. Oh, I should say, with my retro fan tomorrow's hat on, of course, we appreciate the ad space from tomorrow and the ad support from Dollar Bin Bandits, all
absolutely,
the ad support. So thank you so much.
our pleasure. And we are back. So I know you guys are psyched for it. You're looking forward to it. I'm sure you're going to see Oren there. This is usually his territory. He interviews Ed, but I had the pleasure of talking to him, and it was great. I really enjoyed talking to him. He's a great guy. Like I said, Ithacon this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, Ithaca College. Um, Saturday 10 a.m., Sunday 11 a.m. So I hope you guys get out, check it out. Tell them the Dollar Bin Bandit sent you. Like I said, you're going to see Orrin Phillips bopping around there, checking it out. Um, if you see Ed, tell him you saw him on our show. I'm sure he'd appreciate it, and so will we. And as always, like, subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with your family. Do it all. And we'll see you next time.